Welcome to Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang, your intel in the Philippine markets and the economy. In the headlines, deliberations on the 2026 budget by the Bicameral Conference Committee will now be live-streamed, says President Marcos. This as the People's Budget Coalition urges senators to free it from pork barrel politics. We speak with Kenneth Isaiah Abante, co-convener, People's Budget Coalition. Justice Reform Initiative calls on the Ombudsman and the ICI to be independent, not beholden.
ICI should have, greater powers. What is very important here is who is ICI reporting to?
And cash remittances in August reach almost $3 billion. President Marcos wants to live stream to the bicameral conference proceedings on the 2026 budget in a bid to promote transparency. The president yesterday said Senate President Tito Soto and Speaker Boji D have both agreed to open the bicam to the public via live stream. He also said there will be no longer a small committee and that he will be involved in the budget process every step of the way.
I have the agreement of the Senate President and the Speaker na ganun ang gagawin natin. We will live stream the entire process so that if there are questionable, shall we say, insertions or additions or all that, it will also be clear who moved, who made those changes or who proposed those changes so that people will know.
Senate Finance Committee Chair Win Gatchalian told 1PH's sa Totoo Lang that the Senate has already taken steps to make the budget process more transparent and publicly accessible.
Meron kaming ipinasang concurrent resolution, ito yung Senate Concurrent Resolution number 4, kung saan very specific doon na bubuksan yung Bicameral Conference Committee sa publiko via live stream. Ipinasa na sa amin yung General Appropriations Bill ng House. First time in history to na i-upload sa website. So doon sa mga budget watchers, makikita na nila kung ano yung nagbago from NEP to GAB.
Senator Gatchalian agrees with Finance Secretary Ralph Recto that the corruption scandal is causing an economic slowdown. Recto said Tuesday public spending has been reduced due to alleged anomalies in infrastructure projects. Gatchalian said another cause is taxpayers refusing to pay their share until the issue is addressed.
According to him, sa statement niya, dahil nga dito sa corruption, nakita niya may slowdown ng pagbabayad. Dahil nga, tingin ko marami rin sa mga kababayan natin either nag-withhold muna ng babayaran o in protest hindi nagbayad. Diba? So, pero hindi rin maganda yon dahil unang-una, tatamaan yung buong ekonomiya natin kung ang mga kababayan natin in protest hindi magbabayad.
The Senate Finance Committee Chair added that lowering the value-added tax or eliminating it would do the Philippines no good. Gatchalian argued that the VAT saved the Philippines during the financial crisis when former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo raised it to 12% in 2006. Lowering VAT, he said, would cause the deficit to balloon. First guest, along with members of the People's Budget Coalition, have spent the wee hours parsing through the just uploaded General Appropriations Bill in the lower house's website. For the first time, civil society and whoever else wanting access can easily do so online following calls for greater transparency amid allegations of massive government corruption. With us now for more is the co-convener of the People's Budget Coalition, Kenneth Isaiah Abante. Good to talk to you again, Ken. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Cathy. Good morning, and good morning to all our viewers.
Okay, so what was it like parsing through the GAB soonest it was posted online yesterday? That's the first in the history of the national budget process.
So it was very difficult to do it. In fact, we're still parsing through it. We're seeing some errors and inconsistencies in in the committee report and in the general appropriations bill, we're trying to reconcile those figures now and ask the House about these developments.
Does it appear like technical errors or errors in matching the numbers, because you were very actively involved in the pre-approved GAB version?
Right. So I think one, for example, is the local government support fund, which we flagged as possible pork and patronage programs. These were high at around, in the committee report, around 70 billion, but it seems that it went down to around 20 billion. So we're trying to reconcile those amounts, Cathy. We think it was mislabeled as the allocations to local government units, and these are things that we really need to check with the House.
So labeling is an issue. To what would you attribute that?
Yes, so these are things, this I think shows the need for a real open budget transparency server that will allow us to really look at each of these line items and scrutinize them more closely. So, for example, our new calculations for the conservative amounts of pork or patronage in this new budget is now at around 256 billion. From our original computation and accounting, that was around 230 billion, right? So we think there are still pork and patronage projects in this House General Appropriations Bill.
So essentially, that's 26 billion pesos more of the alleged pork barrel insertions. So what you're saying is the value went up post-GAB approval.
That's right. Cathy. And unfortunately, the things that we had flagged as pork projects, and we define pork as projects that will, still need people to beg politicians in order for us to get the social services that we actually deserve, and we should get them automatically. So, for example, the DSWD assistance to individuals in crisis situations at around 59 billion. The Dole Tupad program, around 22 billion. The medical assistance to indigent and financially incapacitated patients, that's around 49 billion. These programs are the ones flagged by budget watchers as needing, guarantee letters. You need to get guarantee letters from politicians in order for you to get them. What effectively happens in these programs is that people in Congress have effective control over who gets the money and how much the money is. So that's actually already been prohibited by the Supreme Court in their pork barrel or PDAF rulings quite a few years back, and we think that these practices are still in this budget. It robs the people of our dignity, Cathy.
Yeah, let's get a visual of that. Let's pull up what is posted online. As you said, it was difficult, but this is the first in history that it's ever been done. So with what we know now, what can we learn that we can share with the Senate as the deliberations begin?
Right. So what we're calling for, including the cardinals and the bishops and business leaders and civil society leaders, Cathy, is we really need to remove these pork and patronage projects that conservatively are around 250 billion. If you include all of the other flaggable items, that goes to up around 450 billion. I'll share more examples from what we flagged, Cathy. That includes confidential and intelligence funds. That's around 9.8 billion. To be fair to the House, they reduced this amount by $1 billion. So that's good news, but it's still very high. Only security agencies, national security agencies, should have confidential and intelligence funds. But these are still very high in terms of amount. So the Office of the President still has a high amount. The Office of the Vice President, the per use of the confidential and intelligence funds are still not resolved. We need those to be resolved so that the actual budget allocations for these programs can be better better allocated.
As we-
Finally, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes, Cathy, sorry. Yeah. So that also includes the NTF LCAP support to barangays. These were the allocations that were alleged to be used for rent tagging of different people who are, scrutinizing the government. It's still around 8 billion pesos, including now the local government support fund, which was corrected to be around 20 billion pesos, even as the national tax allotment under the Mandanas-Garcia ruling has increased to 1.1 trillion pesos. So we're wondering why these amounts are still very high given the national tax allotments of the country.
So as we get into the process of the Senate deliberations, are you still pushing for the resource person status that you had wanted at the onset so you can be called upon and give opinions rather than submit questions to the vice chair of the committee, which happened in the House, and who merely verbalizes the questions?
Absolutely, Cathy. We think that civil society participation should not be tokenistic. While we were able to ask questions and submit questions to the sponsors and the vice chair, we still think our voices are not heard. There's a certain sense in which many of the budget watchers feel like we're losing trust in the integrity of the budget process because of these still hundreds of billions of pesos of pork still present in the House version, Cathy. And we wanted to correct the statement that this is the first time in history that civil society has been engaged in the process. Many of our mentors in the field, including groups like Social Watch Philippines, have been engaging in the process for a decade or so already. And there's a sense in which, while we laud the House leadership for including the civil society organizations in a more formal process, we need genuine participation in this process. So there are two elements to that. One was that you mentioned, the resource person status. We need that for the Senate. Hopefully the Senate listens. And then the second is we need better transparency in order to deepen our participation, because many of the, even congressional staff and the civil society organizations like us spend days really looking at each of these specific line items, comparing across thousands of pages, where we think this process can be made easier through an open budget transparency server. And in order to show that it's indeed possible, we worked with civic tech volunteers in BetterGov.ph to actually do a proof of concept, meaning it's already online, Cathy, and our viewers can actually look at some of the changes that have been done over the past 6 years between the executive proposal in the NEP and the final General Appropriations Act.
Well, that's exactly what I thought we could do. Just look it up, go online. But I did have a difficult time looking for it last night, to be honest.
Right.
You talked about the transparency server. How does that look like then? I mean, what would you want the senators to embrace as they deliberate on the budget?
Yeah, imagine, Cathy, one of the reasons why our trust in the election process has increased over time is the fact that people can, investigative journalists, monitors can actually look at the election server, similar to how vote tallies are reported by media during election day. So that's a very similar a platform that we want also for the budget. And we already have a proof of concept. So imagine like looking at for example, the line item on the unprogrammed appropriations, which is a key issue now, right? You will see how it evolved from the point of agency submission to the committee report in the House, to the General Appropriations Bill in the House, the committee report in the Senate version of the bill, the BICAM version, the presidential veto, and then the final law. Comparing across all of these different pages, as you mentioned, Cathy, you tried doing it. It's extremely difficult, but with technology, it can be made easier. And what the senators and the House leadership need to do is to share with us machine-readable files, meaning Excel files or comma-separated values files, with identifiers, unique project identifiers, which are already present. This is already technically feasible, and we'd love to have a meeting with both the House and the Senate leadership to make this possible. We think it's possible. We already have the technology. We already have the volunteers. Our watchers are ready, and we hope that this becomes a reality, specifically because these are the insertions that have been opaque. Were among the sources of abuse in the flood control scandal. For us to remove one of the sources of abuse, we need the server.
Okay. All right. Well, a lot more work to do, but thank you so much for making the time. Ken Abante of the People's Budget Coalition. Here are the headlines from around the globe. In the U.S., a district judge has temporarily blocked the Trump administration from firing over 4,000 federal workers as the government shutdown enters its third week. The judge has blocked layoffs covering 30 agencies. The shutdown seems to have no end in sight as the Senate failed again to pass the House bill reopening the government. In Madagascar, its new military ruler has declared he would be sworn in as president of the African island nation after leading a coup against its embattled president. This comes as the African Union told Reuters that the bloc had suspended Madagascar following the coup, potentially isolating the country's new leadership from the 55-member bloc. And in Peru, a judge rejected a bid to prevent former President Dina Boluarte from leaving the country. She faces a probe over alleged abuse of office and money laundering. One of the world's least popular leaders, Boluarte was abruptly ousted last week by Congress. You're watching Money Talks. Cash remittances jumped by 3.2% in August, and calls for citizen-led push to speed up investigations into flood control scheme. Justice Reform Initiative Chairman Alexander Cabrera tells us more after the break. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back to Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. Sarah and Curly Vizcaya have withdrawn cooperation from the Independent Commission for Infrastructure. ICI Executive Director Brian Keith Hosaka said the couple invoked their right against self-incrimination during Wednesday's hearing. The Vizcayas had a change of heart upon watching an interview of ICI member Rogelio Singson, saying the commission is not keen on recommending anyone to be a state witness. In an interview with Storycon, Ombudsman Boying Remulla said the Vizcayas have stopped cooperating with authorities since last week.
It was clear to them that they were under evaluation. In fact, nag-walk out sila. No, sinabihan nga sila that they may suffer jail time. They stopped cooperating already last week. Maybe out of political calculation. Wala pa silang nararamdaman fear. I don't see fear in their faces. Para silang parang sinasabi nila, balang araw makakawalan din ako, kaya hindi ko kailangan sabihin lahat.
Justice Reform Initiative Chairman Alexander Cabrera calls for a people's initiative to ensure swift investigation, prosecution, and recovery of assets from the flood control scam. He also urged the ICI to give the public access to its proceedings. I spoke to him on Thought Leaders, asking him the role of the Ombudsman in the investigation.
The Ombudsman is supposed to be independent. And if we look at the performance of the Ombudsman in the past, maybe ups and downs, but one thing is quite obvious. It's independent but beholden at the same time.
Independent but beholden.
Beholden to the president.
So with the newly installed Boying Rimulya
I hope he will
as
not
ombudsman,
be. I hope he will not be beholden.
How will he not be? What would be the guidance of the Justice Reform Initiative then?
It's a difficult question, but in large part, I think it will have to be personal. You know, if you are indeed, you know, at that part of your life, you know, that you just want to do good, then a personal decision must be taken. And, you know, you must do your job for the people, for the country, for posterity, you know, and because this is the problem. If we're not able to convict the decision makers, nothing will happen with our corruption issues. How much are we really losing from corruption? And that is why, you know, he said, how do we solve this? I'd use 3 A's. Number 1, awareness. We should bring the facts to the people. Your job as a journalist is very important. But we should bring the facts to the people to weaken the lies. Because people has gotten very good about lying. They believe in their own lies. And they think that the people believe them when they lie. You know, it's all political. You know, they're just trying to destroy our good name. Bring the facts to them. And number 2, second A, advocate. We should advocate for integrity. We should advocate for enforcement of our laws. We should advocate for people to get jailed. We should call them out. We should advocate. Third is action. Don't just be aware, don't just advocate. Be part of the action. We should all be part of this activism, because activism shows the outrage of our people. And without this outrage, no one will change. They will have a free day. You know, just corruption has become a soft word.
It requires a lot of coordination with the ICI because it is who is conducting the investigations, wanting not only to investigate, prosecute, but recover. So there's that third leg that also needs to be considered, and it wants to do it as the fastest time possible. Is it at all possible?
I don't really know, because and this has been pointed out in fact by one of your guests, Mr. Ramon de Rosario, that ICI should have, you know, greater powers than it has. It must not only be investigating, you know, it must have some enforcement function, you know. But you know, regardless, I think what is very important here is, who is ICI reporting to?
Catch my full interview with attorney Alex Cabrera on Thought Leaders, 9 p.m. on One News and live streamed on social media. Money sent home by overseas Filipino workers rose by 3.2% year-on-year in August. Data from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas showed the increase was driven by a weaker peso, which boosted the value of remittances. Cash remittances coursed through banks reached nearly $3 billion for the month. However, inflows fell by over 6% month-on-month from the 7-month high of $3.18 billion in July. The August tally was the lowest in 3 months since May's $2.66 billion. U.S. markets ended mixed Wednesday amid another round of strong bank earnings. The Nasdaq gained 0.6%, S&P 500 rose by 0.4%, and the Dow slid by 0.1%. The benchmark 10-year Treasury yields ticked up to 4.054%. And gold prices posted another record, closing at $4,176 per troy ounce. U.S. futures, little change with the markets, open later tonight Manila time. The Dow and the Nasdaq are both up by about 0.1% each, and the S&P 500 is down by about 0.1%. As for Asian markets, they're rising this Thursday, tracking Wall Street's gains. South Korea's Kospi is up 1.7%. Australia's ASX 200 climbs 1.1%, and Japan's Nikkei 225 rises by 0.75%. Let's take a quick check on our own markets here in the Philippines. PSEI opens this Thursday higher by 0.1%, 6,104. Bargain hunters lifting the local bourse once again yesterday, Wednesday, rising by nearly 1/3%. That's continuing in the early hours of trading today. The broader all shares index rose by about 0.1%, with the sectoral gauges a mixed bag. As for the Philippine peso, opens today a tad weaker, 57.999 to the dollar. The peso closed yesterday slightly stronger at 58.055 against the greenback. And the 10-year government bond yields have ticked up to 5.942%. In corporate news, Metro Pacific Investment Corp's MWell has partnered with the DICT to integrate digital healthcare services to the government's eGov.ph app. The partnership will establish the country's first national digital health integration within a government platform, giving users access to doctors, medical records, and other services online. Under the Memorandum of Understanding, a digital health ID will be embedded in the eGov.ph app, connecting users to medical professionals and allowing secure storage of health records. DICT Secretary Henry Aguda said the move supports the government's Digital Philippines agenda. For his part, MPIC Chairman, President, and CEO Manuel V. Pangilinan said it will help expand access to healthcare nationwide.
Well, we welcome the help and the support of government for MWell to be able to achieve or a big step forward towards universal health care, to be able to deliver health services to everybody. That distance should not be an impediment to the delivery of health care, no? To our people. And of course, affordable, no? Affordable, accessible healthcare services.
Any talks po ba na meron din po tayo mag-expand aside from Cavite and also Manila na magkaroon?
Yes, of course. Yeah. This is a nationwide program.
Actor and host Mateo Gudicelli has officially signed with MQuest Venture Signal and One News to produce a series of documentaries and other projects. According to Mateo, his upcoming docuseries aim to highlight the stories of Filipinos who serve the nation, stories that are often untold but deeply inspiring. He also shared that the central message of his work is simple: to encourage a deeper love for the country and to remind audiences to continue caring for and believing in the Philippines. Mateo's upcoming documentary series and other projects will soon air across Kapatid platforms. And before we go, Philippine Fashion Week takes center stage as Manila Fashion Week kicks off today. 8 designers and brands will showcase their latest collections, including Andrea Titanco, Chris Nick, DBTK, and Oxygen. The event will run until October 19th at the SM Aura premiere in Taguig City. Much to do this weekend, but it's only Thursday. That is it for Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. Catch us again tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. Kapatid, we are One News. All sides, all the time. Have a great day ahead.